Unanimous consent to revise and send my report.
Without objection.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I am grateful for his leadership on this issue. I rise in strong support of the Public Expression of Religion Act, and I do so with particular gratitude to my Hoosier colleague, John Hostetler, who, during the course of his career in the United States House of Representatives, has stood for the freedom of religion as perhaps no other American. And I say that with understandable parochial Hoosier pride, but I also say it as an objective observation that the gentleman from Indiana has stood for a constitutional accommodationist view of respect for the expression of religion and its importance in American heritage. And, Mr. Speaker, I commend him for his outstanding work on this legislation. 1976, a statute was passed in this Congress called the Civil Rights Attorneys' Fees Awards Act. Very simply and plainly, this statute was intended to protect the constitutional rights of citizens and level the legal playing field. Under this act, a citizen who felt that his or her constitutional rights had been violated could sue a government official or entity and receive attorney's fees if they win. This was important legislation, and it has served a great public good. But it has also served to catalyze a form of litigation since the advent of decisions by the United States Supreme Court in the 1960s and 1970s that moved away from our historical view that the freedom of religion was not the freedom from religion. And it has become a tool, I say very respectfully, to their cause. It has become the tool of elements who would advance a radical secularist view of the public square in America, and who have used the opportunity to access the public treasury in the form of attorney's fees to not only finance massive litigations against government entities, to scrub our public square of any vestige of reference to God or reference to the religious heritage of the American people, but also it has been used to prevent that day in court from happening. The availability of massive amounts of attorney's fees have caused many municipalities, even some in Indiana, to relent in their fight to preserve the public display of the Ten Commandments or references to God in the public square because of the local government's inability to access federal funds to pay their attorney's fees. And so in a very real sense, the unintended consequence of the 1976 law was to take a playing field that was imbalanced to one side and make it imbalanced to the other. And today, because of Congressman John Hostetler's leadership in the Public Expression of Religion Act, we are leveling the playing field once again. We are saying to every American who believes in their heart that "In God We Trust" should not appear in the well of this Congress as it does behind me. To every American who thinks there should be no reference to religion in the public square whatsoever, could I ask for one additional minute?
An additional minute, Mr.
The gentleman is recognized for an additional minute.
It says to every American whose view of the Constitution is that it is one of that the Establishment Clause is somehow an antiseptic to remove any reference to our religious heritage in this country. It says the courts are open to you, but the Treasury is not. As we might say in Indiana, where I'm born and raised and live, that, to put it very plainly, I may fight to the death for your right to hold the views that you hold, but that doesn't mean I have to pay for it. And because of Congressman Hostetler's leadership on the Public Expression of Religion Act, we say the courthouse doors are open. Anyone who would challenge the public expression by local governments or government officials, the acknowledgement of the deep and rich heritage over hundreds and hundreds of years of the American people, but we would say in this instance, in these cases, the public treasury is not open. Raise your money, bring your challenges, and let the court work its will. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. The gentleman